started. There we go again. So it's working, but I see no video. So that's, oh, now I do. Okay, perfect. So there we got YouTube live streaming there. Good morning again, once again, to WNCR-TV Now as we talk about things impacting our state, our city, and our nation this morning. 5 minutes past 8 o'clock hour. And what is there to talk about? Well, first, what I want to do is go to my Facebook Live page, and I'll do it from here. And I let folk know, hey, we are on Facebook Live. How about that? Facebook Live. See, it's like that, Facebook. So we'll do that, and then we'll carry on with the rest of the program. It looks like Facebook Live is now working as well, so it looks like I don't have to do that now. I was about to share the streaming link, which I still can. I can do it right here. Hold on. So we'll kill two birds with one stone by doing it somewhere right here. Yep, YouTube Live. So there we go. So we got them both going on. Perfect. So wasn't with you on yesterday. Of course, we got all of this rain in our community, and you still see some of the rain waters getting higher and higher. So, of course, known trouble spots to avoid. If you are a Rocky Mountain resident, then you know what you know. And know that Trussell over there by Tom Steele Park is not drivable. So definitely do not go under there for that. Sometimes the tunnel under Sutton Road, it will also get flooded out during heavy rains. But normally that's during the rain event and not as the water comes down. I didn't go over there this morning, but definitely saw the Tom Steele Park there. Saw the fire training ground flooded as well. So that area there definitely has some flooding, and maybe other flooding areas in our community that I'm just unaware of, because obviously I don't drive everywhere. So that's that. But nevertheless, that is what's going on. Let me then share the Facebook Live video this morning as well. Let's say good Tuesday morning at highlights. So another thing this week, of course, the Rocky Mount City Council is having a retreat. Let's go to that. Where is Rocky Mount City, Rocky Mount, right here. They made a couple of different announcements, and one was their retreat. Somebody else sent me. Reggie. Okay. So it's a notice. Please take notice. The Rocky Mount City Council will hold its annual retreat beginning Wednesday, March the 19th, which is tomorrow, 1 p.m., to conclude on Friday, March the 21st, 2025, to be held at the Embassy Suites at 9 Extell Lee Place in Wilmington, North Carolina. That again is starting tomorrow. And of course, each session will be available to be seen via YouTube, the City of Rocky Mount's YouTube page. So we certainly thank the city in its increasing over the years, their transparency, and being sure that citizens are have access to see what's going on in most cases when live streaming isn't feasible. Oftentimes, the marketing communication department will record those things, and then they will capture them. Let's see what we got going on here. Hey, caller, good morning. Caller, good morning. Got nothing going on. Okay, perfect. So yeah, that's available there. Yeah, I want to make sure I had audio, but I do. Okay, perfect. And so that again, city council retreat starts on the 19th and ends on March 21st. And the Edgecombe County Commissioners, they had a retreat yesterday. I kind of out of the loop there and did not realize it was going on. And so that happened on yesterday as well. And then I'll make this quick announcement. Where's AJ? When is it? Okay. So it's a Motown Review at the Imperial Center at 270 Gate Street in Rocky Mount on Friday, April the 11th. Reception from 5:30 until 6:30 p.m. Showtime from 7 until 10. An all-white affair in tribute to Frankie Beverly. And so, of course, it's $45 for the ticket includes reception, age 21 plus, And so that is where you can check it out in the Motown Review on April the 11th, 2025. And tickets are available at OIC. That's on Pennsylvania Avenue. You can also get more information by contacting or calling Mac Melton, I guess. That's 252-883-1104. That's 252-88, that's the 883, 886-1104. That's 252-886-1104. Or the OIC at 252-212-3467. That's 212-3467. Again, that's the Motown Review on Friday, April the 11th. I tell you, that's going to be coming right up very soon because time again waits for no one. What else is happening? That was this past weekend. Okay, cool. And then the city gave a notice that there would be a legislative breakfast with state officials, with the city council and state legislative delegates. It will be held on Monday, March the 24th at the Rocky Mount Event Center beginning at 8 a.m. There are no items for the city council to take action on. So this is just a legislative breakfast. The city of Rocky Mount City Council and the state legislative delegates. It's going to be at the Rocky Mount Event Center on Monday, March the 24th, 2025 at 8 a.m. And again, it says there will be no items for city council action. And I guess they're saying there'll be no items for voting, but I would assume they'll be talking about priorities and what kind of help and support they would want the North Carolina General Assembly to give them in this upcoming year. That's that. So that again, that'll be going on Monday. And the reason why they make that notice because the full body of the city council, I guess, will be present. And so they are required to make notification of that is going on there. So that's that this morning as well. 12 minutes past 8 o'clock hour this morning on Wncr-Tv. I had a conversation with somebody about a day or so ago, or maybe more, but then I see it in the Rocky Mount Telegram today as well. And of course, I'm not in the business of selling alcohol, so it really wouldn't impact me at all. But I was talking about the tariffs on wines and spirits and champagnes and liquor and all this kind of stuff. And so it looks like the Rocky Mount Telegram did an article on it as well. It talked about President Donald Trump's threatened 200% tariffs on French champagne, along with wines and spirit from European Union, which squash imports, hurt smaller U.S. distributors, restaurants, bars, likely to drive up prices with domestic offerings facing less competition. And so there's a whole bunch of folk that like to drink. I mean, that's just what they do. There is a whole bunch of people who will tear up the ABC store. Every single one of them pretty much always has a car in front of it. No matter what time you drive by, you may drive by today, and that's not the case. That's why I said almost every time. And so these potential tariffs, one, it could actually drive people to no longer drink or drink less. Oh, I know I had a conversation with, and I had it Saturday. Was it Saturday? I had it Saturday. And so, with the tariffs and the other projects as well, things as well will have an impact on it. But in particularly, I know North Carolina seems to be a drinking state, like many other states across this country. And I thought about some friends who are in the restaurant business all across in different areas of the state here in Rocky Mount as well, who do make a whole bunch of money offering alcohol to people who are purchasing those substances. What will happen to a drink that was, I don't know, $20, that now that drink is going to be $40 or $50, $5, $60 or whatever it may be, right? One, I assume you're going to drink less. so if you're drinking or had a particular budget, I'm only spending $100 on alcohol, and now you're going to be spending more. And the problem is that while restaurants may have a stock that they would have bought at the lower price, they also got to anticipate replacing that stock at a higher price. You're going to say, hey, well, you already had the alcohol before it got here. Why are you charging more for me now? Because in anticipation of refilling those shelves up, they're going to have to do that. And I think looking at that and looking at the number of incidents that happen that are alcohol related, that probably could be a great thing that's happening. I get it. While President Trump is talking about doing a fair deal between trade between the global market spaces, it could have a plus positive impact on those who. Again, it's a I don't know. I mean, because alcoholism is a real thing too, right? And so when you need it, when you believe you need it, you need it. And so, is it the type of substance that you'll do anything to get it, right? They would say that about other substances in which people do any and everything to get it. So could it drive up additional criminal activity for people who said, I got to have a drink. And so I know somebody house they got it. They may not be home now, so I'm going to go in and get it type situation. So if the tariffs truly do take place, some supposed to set place on April the 2nd. Some things have been walked back since then. And so you have this weeble wobble type situation of administrations going on as well in some areas. So you don't know what is and what isn't. Particularly, I was listening on the radio this morning, and they were talking about whether the Trump administration is going to follow the judge's order or not. So that is interesting as well, that the judge doesn't have jurisdiction. And of course, you take it and appeal it to the next level of court to find out whether or not jurisdiction applies. Generally, a judge will believe that he or she has such jurisdiction. That's why they would pass forth an order if they believe it's within their boundaries. Otherwise, they'll say this can't be heard in the court. And so they have that jurisprudence to be able to acknowledge the fact that, hey, yeah, I got jurisdiction over this. And so this is brought before my court. And so I'm going to respond to it because it's within my scope of a judgeship, should I say, or judging. So that's something to think about as well. But it does seem to be that there is some thoughts, depending on the decision of the court, whether or not decision of the court should be followed. And then again, it plays on this whole checks and balance situation. In fact, there was a video that I saw on social media. Let me see if I can find out who paged that. No one sent it to me. I just happened to see it going down. Matter of fact, I might can find it here. Let's see. Let's see if we can find that video real quick. If I can't do it, I won't do it yet. So anyway, it was a congressman that wanted Elon Musk to show up at a particular committee. And he said a couple things. And I think not only did Elon Musk not show up, but I think other members of the committee didn't show up as well. And I wish I could find that video. I mean, maybe somebody else might know exactly what it is and can share it. And if he was able to share it, we can share it this morning. I want to say good morning, though, to Yvonne Hendricks. Also, I'm about to say Elon Musk. Maybe he is watching. Who knows? Good morning to Lucy Boyer. Good morning to Yvonne Hendricks, Barbara Smith, Vernice Harris, Jane Bullock, Donovan Williams, John Jordan, Brenda Whitehead, Gwendolyn Swain, Deborah Gunter, Alfreda, Evelyn Bullock, and Allison Williams. Thank you all for tuning in to Wncr-Tv Now as we talk about things impacting our state, our city, and our nation this morning. But again, and Jasmine King, thank you for becoming a follower there. Deborah Gunter, and Frida, thank you all for sharing the Facebook Live video as well. We certainly appreciate that share this morning. But yeah, and again, some of the statements that he was making, and I forgot what this congressperson's name is, but said, listen, if Elon Musk is doing so good with Doge and all this kind of stuff, then he wouldn't have a problem talking and sharing with the committee as to what he's doing. But talks about how the legislative body is supposed to be a check on the judiciary body and the executive body, right? And saying that, you're giving up your constitutional rights and being basically subordinate to another branch of government. And that is not the way that the framers of the Constitution designed it to be. It is a check on each executive branch, which is why, bringing it here to North Carolina, and I got to look at it a little more in depth in North Carolina's Constitution. But of course, Governor Josh Stein just here recently filed an order or a lawsuit in courts to prohibit the state auditor from appointing the members of the North Carolina Board of Elections. And that is supposed to take place on May 1st. And so he's saying, hey, look, uh, the legislative body acted unconstitutionally when they created a law that stripped the governors of his authority to execute laws. And this is why, people should be voting in every single election, because unfortunately, sometimes you get judges in various seats, whether it be a district court judge, whether it be a superior court judge, or whether it be an appellate court judge or Supreme Court, state Supreme Court justice, federal appeals court, or even the United States of America Supreme Court. I think oftentimes you get people, oftentimes we call them spineless, and that they do not adjudicate based on the facts before them. They adjudicate based on the party ideologies, and really are not fair to the Constitution in most cases. And they kind of forget that it's supposed to be great little constitutional scholars, and especially when you're dealing with the U.S. Supreme Court. Uh, Sometimes we call them spineless. Actually, I don't think they are spineless. I think they have a huge spine in which they are so emboldened into party politics that they will muster up whatever type of alignment they associate themselves with. Right? And so that's just crazy in itself. And people argue, no, Brian, they are exactly spineless because they should do the right thing despite the party. And I get it. We can look at it in multiple ways there, but they oftentimes do not follow common sense practice, even the correct interpretation. In fact, I think one of the things was that the judiciary didn't have the power to interpret laws. Then that's like fourth grade education, right? That is like fourth grade education. But I always will stand by. A bad law is a law that is not easily interpreted. And so when you do have to go to the courts to get some understanding as to what the law is, then you have a legislative body who oftentimes rushed and made laws and did not include definitions, did not really think it all the way through. They just want to get something out quick, nasty, and dirty, right? And then it's up to the courts to then interpret what that law actually can do. What is the way of the law? Because they have to then place that law under a constitutional examination. This is why when justices are taking oath of office, they have to take oath of office to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. Same is true with a North Carolina Supreme Court justice. They must uphold the state constitution and the U.S. Constitution simultaneously. And so that is what they are sworn to, and not per se the laws of the land. Because, again, the legislative body, both in the state legislative and the federal legislation, can make laws that are unconstitutional. And so they're not supposed to be legislative people who understand the Constitution. Okay, they're just trying to figure out, okay, one, how do I make life better for citizens? That's ultimately what they're supposed to do. And they're supposed to have some law clerks, or not law clerks, but legislative assistants. Well, I guess there may be some law clerks in whatever they call them in Congress. Law clerks generally are laid for the Judiciary Department, but they're going to have some kind of legal scholars within the House and Senate to really kind of think about, okay, will this law pass the constitutional test, right? Are we infringing, or is there discriminatory laws, or this, that, and third? And so this is what they're supposed to do. And oftentimes some of those things are not right. And so the courts then have to determine whether or not the law should be upheld, or whether or not the law is unconstitutional. Say all that to say, our Governor Josh Stein is saying that the North Carolina legislative body got it wrong when they removed the power from the governor's office and placed it with the state auditor. And they were wrong in that. And so he goes more through his attorneys, goes back and say, listen, this already came to the courts before and they lost then, and so they should lose now. That the Board of Elections is a situation that executes situations, right? And so execution of laws is by North Carolina Constitution, generally mirrors the state constitution, is a function of the executive branch of government, which that's what the governor's office is, i.e. the president's office, the same. And so the state auditor would not and should not have the authority to execute laws. The auditor's office, in fact, we can probably kind of look at what its state constitution is. But again, it goes back to whether or not a judiciary, one who will hear this case, will say, do I believe in North Carolina Constitution or do I believe in parties' thoughts, plans, and ideas, right? And so let me see. North Carolina State Auditor. And let's just say that function is not even in the Constitution. And it's a function created by the state government, right? Then they have zero authority, right? Let's see. One another create, and I think we looked at this before the creation of the state auditor. Mission goes history of the office. Well, there you go. So, okay. So it does say the 1868 Constitution provides that the state auditor should be elected by the people and was a superintendent of fiscal affairs of the state, examine and settle accounts of persons indebtedness to the state, liquidate claims by persons against the state, and draw warrants on the state treasurer for monies to be paid out from the treasury. So then, there you go. So that is what the Constitution sets out for the state auditor. Then it's a pretty cut and dry case. I mean, if people are factually going to uphold the Constitution. Now, when they don't, then they don't, right? Then they don't. So let me just go here and look at something here. But that came straight from the auditor's website. I did not, create that. I went straight to North Carolina Auditor's website, found it there, and read it verbatimly as to what it is. Now, I just saw the auditor somewhere. Not literally. Go back to it. Where was that at? Let me see. Yeah. So there you go. So this is what it actually says. It says that the Article 3 under the North Carolina Constitution says the executive department shall consist of the governor, shall be vested the Supreme Court executive power of the state, a lieutenant governor, a secretary of state, a auditor, a treasurer, a superintendent of public works, a superintendent of public instruction, and attorney general, who shall be elected for a term of 4 years, shall be qualified electors of the state at the same time. So then to that situation, then it could be argued that the auditor could in fact have such authority. I'll have to go back and read the rest of the North Carolina Constitution. But the executive department shall consist of a governor, which is one member of the executive department, a lieutenant governor, a secretary of state, an auditor, a treasurer, a superintendent of public works, a superintendent of public instruction, and an attorney general, who shall be elected for a term of 4 years by the qualified electors of the state at the same time and place and the same manner as members of the General Assembly are elected. Their term shall commence on the first day of January next after their election and shall continue until their successors are elected and qualified, provided that the officers first elected shall assume the duties of their office 10 days after the approval of this Constitution by Congress of the United States of America, and shall hold their office for 4 years from the day after January 1869. Then, and then let's go to the governor section here. It talks about the governor shall have oath of office. The governor shall reside at the seat of government at head state. The governor shall have powers to grant reprieves, commutations, and pardons after convictions for all offenses except in cases of impeachment. Upon such duties, he or she may think, I get he or she, upon conditions as he may think proper, subject to such regulation. And that's crazy. So my mind saw he, and then I guess because of how we are programmed today, we're going to say he or she there. Because I said, wait a minute, let me read that verbatim. It says, that's not what it said, Bronson. The executive office of the public institution shall. So let's go down back to the auditor situation, because that was the original conversation. Let's see what the powers are of the auditor. There, here we go. And it probably should read verbatimly to what it is. The respective duties of the state auditor, treasurer, superintendent of public works, superintendent of public instruction, and attorney general shall be prescribed by law. If the office of any said officer shall be vacated by death, resignation, or otherwise, it shall be the duty of the governor to appoint another until a disability be removed or the successor is elected or qualified. So the Constitution lays out that the governor obviously has additional powers than the others that I just forementioned. The Secretary of State, the Auditor, Treasurer, Superintendent of Public Works, the Superintendent of Public Instruction shall constitute ex officios of Council of State who shall advise the governor in execution of his office. The three of whom shall constitute quorum. Their advice or proceedings in this capacity shall be entered into the journal to be kept. So while they are part of the, now this could be interpreted that while they may be a part of the executive office, they're only there in advisement capacity. Interesting. The clerk of Superior Court shall be audit. Yeah, got that. So essentially, then, in my little quick brief of the Constitution of the North Carolina, let me check out something else. Election shall be free. Let's say for redressing grievances and for attending and strengthening the law, elections should be held often. Each member of the Senate shall not be less than 25 years. We got that. Member of the House. If vacancies occur in the General Assembly by death or resignation, writs of election shall be issued by the governor, and such regulations shall be prescribed by law. Term of senators, yep, got it. Election. The election members of the General Assembly shall be held respective districts and counties and shall So the officers of the executive department of public instruction shall be at least 5 days. Should be commander in chief. The governor shall have the power for extraordinary occasions to advise. Yep. The governor shall nominate and then by advice and consent of majority of the senators elect officers established. The Constitution shall be created in law. Impeachment of governor. Well, it looks pretty clean to me. Looks pretty clean, I must say. Yeah, I'm going to read this more. Now I'm kind of fascinated by it, as you can see. So I'm going to look at that even more as it relates to that. But yeah, so based on that, even again, based on what I read off the North Carolina State Auditor's website, it is, and you click on the history of the Office of the Auditor, the term auditor dates back to the original colonial Constitution adopted on March the 1st, 1669, where 12 positions were authorized, but there's no evidence that they ever functioned in the capacity to keep rent rolls and other accounts as the colonial grew. However, the General Assembly and comptrollers of the King of England appointed board of auditors to serve for various communities to handle matters designated by the English monarchy. In 1782, the General Assembly appointed Richard Caswell, the first comptroller comptroller rather of the state of North Carolina. His duties were to direct the mode of stating, checking, and controlling all public accounts and keep these accounts for full inspection for the General Assembly. In addition, 10 boards of auditors were to be located in various parts of the state. The system remained in place until 1862, when the General Assembly established the Office of the Auditor of Public Accounts. The 1868 Constitution provided state auditors shall be elected by the people and was to superintend the fiscal affairs of the state, examine and settle accounts of persons indebted to the state, liquidate claims by persons against the state, and draw warrants to the state treasurer for monies to be paid out by the treasurer. In 1872, the system of county tax and property rolls, polls, and incomes were established. The local sheriffs acting as a tax collector. The state auditor was to prepare the forms for listing taxes and provide them to each sheriff. He was to report to the state treasurer the amounts due to each fund if any of the sheriffs defaulted on their accounts. The Revenue Act of 1923 relieved the auditor of his local tax duties. The legislature in 1921 strengthened the power of the state auditors by giving the powers to examine and audit and adjust accounts. However, it also made the auditor responsible for disbursements of the overall accounting functions. This role presented the auditor with the substantial issues of potential conflicts, certain independence in carrying out the assigned duties. It was in 1955, before the General Assembly separated the duties, transferring the purely accounting functions to a new position to the executive branch. This change resulted in state auditor being a position of independence to review and comment on the operations and financial affairs of North Carolina state government. So that's interesting. So it looks like before 1955, the state auditor's office was a subordinate to the governor, and it may be as prescribed in the Constitution to be, again, one who is in a position of power to where their interpretation of the law makes sense. My interpretation of the law means nothing. Okay, I am not a judge in North Carolina. So Article 5, Chapter 147 of the North Carolina General Statute states the auditor broad power examine all books, records, files, papers, documents, and financial affairs of state agencies. The auditor has the power to summon people to produce records and answer questions under oath. So again, when you look at the history of what the functionality of the state auditor office is, the only thing I could see the state auditor then having some authority to do, if by a new act of the state legislative body, would really, and I think they already had it to begin with, would be the campaign finance function of the Board of Elections, to be sure that those were right. And I think that the state auditor's office has, in fact, probably audited the state Board of Elections before. And so I really don't see how, with a just justice system, and this will again be the determining factor of that, how the General Assembly would actually have the right to do it. Now, again, if they do it, then that lets you just know how corrupt and unjust our General Assembly is in their decision making and voting thoughts and process. Okay. And that is why the executive branch does have the authority to go to the judiciary branch and say, listen, courts, the legislative branch is kind of jumping their authority, and I need you to get them right. And the same was true with the legislative branch. The legislative branch say, listen, courts, the governor ain't doing what he's supposed to do. He's kind of overstepping, and I need you to check the governor on this. And so that is how it's supposed to work. Hey, caller, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Hope you are.
I'm doing fine. We don't have any people over anything anymore.
I agree.
I mean, it's just name only. Name only. If whoever's in charge of the Congress, the Senate, or whatever, and the presidency, and might as well say the Supreme Court, they have the power. But what I wanted to say this morning is I don't know how many people saw over the weekend when they was taking those people back. And the thing that disturbed me a lot, other than seeing them the way they did the people was, why did they have their face covered?
Mm.
You know, why did you have to cover all the policemen and whatever? They had their faces covered.
Mm.
You don't know whether they was, police or what they was that went in there and took these people out. And that's what you're looking at if you go into Revelation. I was reading in Revelation this morning, and you see these things coming to pass. And he done in his words, President Trump, I'm going to give honor where honor is due because of the office.
Mm-hmm.
He really thinks that he had ultimate power.
Mm-hmm.
But I always go back to Daniel, if you have read Daniel, about the man that thought that he could have all the power. And God let him know right quick, you're not in charge. And I just look out here at a farmer say other day, he's still waiting on his money. I want to tell him so bad, Mr. Bronson, keep waiting.
Keep waiting.
He done told y'all. He told these people before he got in office what he was going to do. He did not lie to them one time.
Mm-hmm.
All they saw was DEI, and we're going to send them back.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, before this, he got in, I saw Hispanic people everywhere working on these houses. Now, a lot of them just sitting where they have been working. One right down the street from me,
mm-hmm.
It's just been sitting. Nobody working on it.
Mm.
When you go to Walmart, you don't see them. They must be gone, a lot of them. And I don't blame them. So my point is, you get what you ask for. A lot of these folk voted against their own interests. You knew you had farms. You knew you had different things. You knew, like my sister-in-law neighbors, they went home for Christmas. She found out the other day they deported those people.
Wow.
They never came back. So I'm saying, if it can happen to them, it can happen to us.
Mm-hmm.
He don't care nothing about what color you is now, okay, people? He got what he wanted. Get back in the White House
mm-hmm.
and get ultimate power. He said it. You won't have to vote no more. And nobody didn't believe it. You remember we were talking about that on your program?
That's right. That's right.
If you let him get back in, this is what's going to happen. And it's sad. Now you're talking about taking away the free lunch. People ain't got no job. Look how many people Pfizer done laid off.
Mm-hmm.
And people forget that when you start losing jobs, I don't care if you run a business, you're going to lose some money because people are not working.
That's right.
Because I'm holding on to my coins, okay? I'm only buying what I need to buy. Nothing excess. Nothing. Because guess what? You don't know from one day to the next whether you'll get your Social Security, whether you'll get your Medicaid, whether you'll get your Medicare. It's just up in the air. A lot of people depend on these programs because a lot of people my age, guess what? I was raised on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was raised on the farm. He really didn't get Social Security. My dad basically get SSI, and that's not a lot of money, and we help, we help them out,
right?
The family. So I'm just saying this morning, people need to be prayerful about how you spending your money. If you don't need it, don't buy it.
Mm-hmm.
That way, when you really need something, you'll have the money. Nail shops and all that foolish stuff. Paint your own nail. You used to do it.
That's right.
Do your own hair. Get your straightening comb, whatever you need. Thank you.
Thank you. 252-407-8432. That's 252-407-8432. And that's one thing they was talking about. I forget what the name of the act is, that in time of war could just get people on out of here. And I think they said he was using that as well. And to your point, that is exactly what he said he was going to do and hope to do. And of course, Media Project 2025 laid out a number of things that you see in fruition today, and that is what those individuals who voted wanted. So yeah. Good morning to Marvin Bowden. Good morning to Irma Maxwell and Barbara Chapman, Alice Bailey. Thank you too for tuning in to WNCR-TV Now. as we continue to talk about things impacting our state, our city, and our nation. And Gwendolyn Swain, good morning to you. Andre Smiley, good morning to you as well. It says Buy American Drinks. And so the reason I think America is and has been able to be a thriving nation is because people want to do business with America. If America gets into this thing, made in America, by America, for America, only America, right? That creates a situation where there is no real room for growth. That doesn't work. And let me see. Let me see if I can get that. I know I can probably. Is there audio of that? Maybe, maybe not. Yeah. So let me see. So this is something that when I thought about made in America, by America, for America, and again, no one say that I'm anti-America because it makes such statements, but I think you have to be pro-truth. I think you have to be pro-logic and pro the economy and economics. When I mean, it sounds good to chant those things, but in actuality, only doing business with self will not have you go a lot of places. And so, okay, that should be, yep, this is it right here. And this may cut off. I even have it. And what that thought process reminded me of is this. Some years ago, down in what is called Alabama.
Today, I have stood where once Jefferson Davis stood and took an oath to my people. It is very appropriate that from this cradle of the Confederacy, this very heart of the great Anglo-Saxon Southland, that today we sound the drum for freedom, as have our generation of forebears before us done time and again down through history. Let us rise to the call of freedom-loving blood that is in us and send our answer to the tyranny that clanks its chains upon the South. In the name of the greatest people that have ever trod this earth, I draw the line in the dust and toss the gauntlet before the feet of tyranny, and I say segregation now, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever.
Again, Wallace there, George Wallace, who talked about segregation now, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever. And so when you talk about buy America now, buy America tomorrow, buy America forever, that's just not going to work. Okay? It's just not going to work. Simply because America has become what it has become because of the interactive global trading that it's done. It's allowed additional dollars to come into the soil. Because again, if I take a dollar and I give this dollar to my neighbor, the dollar then goes to my next neighbor, and the dollar goes to my next neighbor, and the dollar ultimately comes back to me. Where is the new dollar created? It's not created anywhere. And so the only way that it works is when I give a dollar here, there, and everywhere else. That dollar then moves across the pond somewhere, and then that dollar comes back 3 or 4 times and happens to fall back into my lot. Now I've created an additional opportunity to grow the value of the dollar, or at least grow the dollars that I have in my pocket. But intercommunal trading, you might as well get rid of the dollar and just go back to the old barter system here, or just exchanging sugars and plums and tomatoes and things of that nature versus the dollar, because it just wouldn't make any sense. It would really be the product more than anything else to trade upon there. But because it was in a global market space and it was easy to do things and blah, 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 and start doing commerce in America, create this dollar, and then it was then having these international exchanges. So all that stuff, works. It works at the end of the day. But I think about the speech I just shared a few moments ago of George Wallace's Segregation Today, Segregation Forever, and it was at his inaugural address. And again, that was in 1963. That was in 1963. You think about it. It's 2025 today. You're talking about 62 years ago. 62 years ago, a little over 60 years ago now, because that was on January the 14th, 1963. You know people who are older than 62 years. And you heard the roaring, thunderous clapping and applauding to that idea that segregation should be a thing of now, tomorrow, and forever. And so you really got to go back and think about life then and life now. And there was a young lady who was talking about other things that we'll probably share later on in the week, if I can remember to go back and finish looking at the video. We are not that far removed from a number of ills that has created desolate valleys in our communities, in our cities, in our country, and et cetera, because of orchestrated governmental corruption in which absolute power was supreme for that time. But one thing that I found to be true in history, while the years may change of how long people stay in some type of situation of oppression, there is a moment where people are broken from such oppression, are broken from such bondage. But if you look at the buildup of what we're seeing across legislative bodies, all across this country, and our federal government and et cetera, you're seeing a consolidation and a united front of doing some things that will take us back to a situation in which we said we would never return again to. That's where we find ourselves at. Now, whether people want to believe it or not, whether people want to pacify it or whatever, the reality is it is what it is. And so the question is, yes, there are some challenges that we have in America. Yes, there are some challenges we have in North Carolina. Yes, there are some challenges we have in Rocky Mount. But what are those challenges that's going to have the best benefit of changing the tides for all people? For all people. Now, there's this thought process that if we can get rid of immigrants in America, then we'll be okay. The challenge with that is, at what point do you stop classifying people as immigrants? Because if you continue to go, the only place you can stop at is the true Native Americans that were native to this soil before the Europeans got over here and decided, I'm going to colonize this place into what we see today. So that's just too far back. People are not going to do that. When you look at, again, the disproportionate use of public funds when it came to education based on east of I-95. You saw the Leandros case being won, and the court saying that the State General Assembly must fund these students. You saw the unwillingness of a General Assembly to do it. Granted, it mainly happened in a Democratic Senate, right? But you still see the unwillingness of even the Republican, I meant legislative body, to really change the trajectory of public education east of I-95. Right? Why is that? say, well, then you got to start looking at what is the demographic population of east of I-95. That'll answer your question. Oh, everything can't be about skin color. I agree, it shouldn't be. But when you do your due diligence, when you think critically about it, and when there are truly people who say, I want us to end racial conversation in America, well, then how is it that when it's presented to you in black and white facts, we can draw the lines and make conclusionary data assertions because of what we see, because of what we've known, because we can see the outputs that existed because of the inputs of doing things that were damaging to lives, that were damaging to communities, that were damaging to the environment, the whole entire ecosystem that we know as humanity. We can see that right in front of us. We say, well, you know what? That was 62 years ago. Well, you know what? That was 100 years ago. Some of the things that people are dealing with in 2025 were laws that were created just 12 months ago. Some of the things that people are dealing with now, or will be dealing with soon, are laws being discussed and talked about at this very moment. Right? And so these are the things that will and shall cripple the advancement of people, while we will shout that it will, in fact, help the advancement of people. As a songwriter said, the devil is a liar. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay? That is not the reality. The sweet songs that they sing of, this is what we need to cross the finish line, to have equity and to have this and all of that, because we are in a place where everything is good. I don't believe you can go back to good. You can only move forward to the best. Because good is what is considered to be the most achievable thing at that moment. But because of the advancement of people, because of the advancement of technology, even good back then is not the best that we'll consider today. Look at healthcare opportunities and the advancements there. Good 62 years ago is not good in 2025. My time is up, but I encourage people to continue to have conversations with each other. Encourage people to vote. Encourage people to get registered. You have a General Assembly right now who don't want groups to have registration drives because they don't want people to participate in the electoral process. Again, I say there are laws being passed. There are conversations being held right now as we speak that are not making us good or great or the best. It's actually moving us backwards to a place in which people will be controlled by folks who don't even like them, can't stand them, want to see them fail at every occasion, but yet they will smile in your face and say, I want the best for you. Then there are people who naturally do want the best for you, but not in a position of power to do anything about it. Because again, we get caught up in the emotion versus the substance. I'll see you hopefully tomorrow to do it all over again on Wncr-Tv Now to talk about things impacting our state, our city, and our nation. Make it a great Tuesday. Don't forget to check out Pop's Diner at 132 South Church Street, downtown Rocky Mount, open from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m.